Hey, where would you rather be than right here, right now? Noon, Friday, lunchtime East, second cup of coffee, West, the 188th week, Town Hall Academy. Good to have you all here, Carm Capriato. You know what? I just look so forward to doing these each and every Friday because we bring, a brand new topic and we really tear it apart. It's all about automotive aftermarket. And today, oh my God, succession, creating the next career, internal candidate, family. We're not talking about this enough. And of course, that's my opinion, but I may be right. And I think there are three people here that are going to help confirm that I may be right and that we need to talk more about this. I'm with Jessica Carrino, Sparks Tire and Auto. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, Carm.
And let me just break the code here. Jessica is the daughter of Ron Tinner, and Ron's with us. Hello,
Hello there.
Ron.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you, man. You've been on the podcast before, and another great contributor to the podcast, David Justice from Repair Shop of Tomorrow.
Great to be here, Carm.
Good to have you, Dave. In fact, I think I threw this out at you, and I said, "Hey, what client may you have that can come here and share as much as they're willing to share about, how you make succession work inside of a family business." And of course, this is an internal family candidate, which makes it unique and different versus an internal non-family candidate or selling on the outside. But how many, raise your hand out there in the audience, how many, are in a family business? And how many are in first or second generation? And what's the stats that we go out to second and third generation, and how terrible those stats are that we succeed the business, no matter if it's family or not family. And we've got an awful lot of great things to talk about here. And I want to get going here in a sec. But first, let's talk about Shopware. Great supply partner here to me. Stop spending time chasing customers. Shopware's leading shop management system is helping shops like yours generate more profit per ticket with less time on the phone. Break away from your legacy system and implement a completely contactless workflow today. Get started at getshopware.com. And does your social media truly represent your shop, or is it just plain vanilla generic posting? Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Experts at Shop Marketing Pros listen and create social content that connects you to your community on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Okay, everyone, we're back from my great sponsor notification there. And don't forget, we repurposed this podcast both as a video. If you miss catching it on any of the Facebook streams, LinkedIn, or my YouTube channel. We are out on that today. We repurpose this as a audio and a video next Thursday. And if you're hanging with us, and I can see if you are, you can kind of make a comment. Robert Kennedy, he's always here. Robert Kennedy Jr. is always here. Good Friday afternoon to everybody. Jonathan, good morning, Carm. Well, Jonathan, you must not be East Coast. So let me see. Sitting in a repair shop getting my oil changed. Well, very good. Thank you, Mr. Facebook user, whoever you may be. If you're out there and on social media, I would love it if you could give us a like. And by the way, there's always some great comments, after we're kind of done, as this thing continues to live a life on social media. I'd like to know the city that you may be in, or even share it. I know we had a bunch of shares this morning before we even came on. Okay, housekeeping's done. Let's jump in this thing. Ron, I want to go to you first. And if you don't mind, and if you say, hey, Carm, that's a little too personal, I get that. But I think we've got to get in the weeds a little bit to explain to the industry why it's critical and important. But did you ever, Jessica or Ron, ever assume that you knew what your dad wanted to do? Or did you know what Jessica, that you would have loved to see Jessica do this? I mean, the other person's intentions, the communication piece, I think is so critical here.
I'll start with that one. I would tell you that early on in life, she showed no interest in the family business. She wasn't ever mechanically driven. She went to college to take life in a different direction. She graduated college during the Great Recession. She came back home. She came to work for us. And within a very short period of time, you could just tell that she was absolutely enthralled in the business side of what we do, not the repair side. After watching her, so I would say take the reins in some of the positions that I used to have to do all of it, as a lot of business owners do. I watched her grow, and I just decided that this is something we needed to discuss, because I didn't inherit this business. I bought this business from a gentleman that I worked for 15 years. He had the same mindset. He came to me 5 years before retirement and said, here's what I think we should do. So we got involved 5 years out and made a plan and moved on. I've got more time to work with Jessica, so we put it in place quite a few years ago. So we know when I'm going, where the money will be to pay me, and so on and so forth. But you gotta, if you see somebody, whether it's family or not family, if you see somebody you think should have that position and may want it, you got to talk about it very early on, because this isn't something you can just make happen in 6 months' time. In most cases.
How about your side of this, Jessica?
Well, when I graduated college in 2008, I had a degree in geography and architecture. So I wanted to go into home building, and we all know what happened to the housing market. So there was no positions for me with the degree that I had. So thankfully, Dad brought me on, gave me a job so I could support myself. And I'm very thankful for that. And as I like to tell everybody, he never got to get rid of me. It's stuck with me now. I loved the position I was in. I started in marketing, and then kind of moved on to the bookkeeping, CSR side. And now I'm learning all of the business aspects, have been for a few years now. And that way he can eventually move out and I can take over everything that he does.
Jessica, take me to the day that you and your dad sat down and he said, hey, maybe it's time.
I can't remember that far back. You're testing my brain. But it's something that I had already been thinking about. So when he brought it up, it was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer because you had already felt that it was the right thing to do. That you just were hoping that Dad one day, me and Dad, could sit down and have that conversation.
Correct. I was waiting for him to bring it up.
Waiting for him. Ron, was that an uncomfortable thing for you?
No, actually, the first time I brought it up, excuse me, was just a typical Sunday dinner, sitting around enjoying the afternoon, and I just told her, I think this is something we need to talk about. For me, it's a matter of those who know me. I'm not afraid of the day I check out. Never know when that day is going to be, but I want a plan way out ahead. Hopefully I'm here for a long time, but if I'm not, I need to know that all the people that work for me, as well as my wife and daughter and granddaughter, are all taken care of. So that plan needed to be taken care of right away.
So you were really thinking someday down the road, what was it that you, yeah, I know she's your daughter, but what was it that said, you know, I think this is going to work? What did you see?
Her ability to just jump right in and take over, actually throw ideas at me. I've been doing, at that point, I've been doing it for 10, 12, 15 years, and I thought I had it all figured out. And she'd say, hey, what if we did this? And I'd go home and think about it and say, you know what? That's a great perspective. This girl is already starting to think about 10 years down the road. We need to get together and figure this out. So she's got a great business mind.
So Jessica, you're a planner. You had that,
yes.
and Dad, and obviously you weren't trying to impress Dad. That's just how you are. So he saw that in you, and that's probably, Ron, when you said at that Sunday dinner, hey, because you gained confidence, right, Ron?
Absolutely. Everybody wants to know. I think everybody wants to know that if something happens or when you're ready to move on to something else, like now the coaching side of life, I know that I can leave. My boys all have a career that they're not going to have to worry about being in jeopardy because business slows down. Nothing changes if you do this right.
Yeah. David, I've got to go to you since you're a former shop owner, multi-shop owner, and now a business coach, and a successful one. And I know you work closely with Napa on stuff. You see this so often, and what would be the whispering coaching moments you give to shop owners about situations like this?
Well, I think Ron said it about either acquiring someone or finding someone in your shop, whether it be family or employee, and having those conversations, seeing what their thoughts are and their mindset and their goals. But so many of these businesses, our businesses, I should say, are not sold. People walk away from. And for me, that's just, it just hurts my heart. As long as we start to build and plan and really put a plan in place, there's no reason that we can't get paid for what we've done in our businesses.
Yeah. Are we bashful, David, at all when it comes to trying to find the candidate, be it a family member or an internal candidate? We just don't know how to pull the trigger and talk about it.
Well, I think it's very uncomfortable when you start to talk about family members. Ron had mentioned a Sunday dinner. What if there's someone else, brother or sister or what have you, that feels that they should have that opportunity, let alone getting involved in business with family? If something doesn't work out, there's quite a challenge there down the road. With talking to employees, the minute that you say to someone, what's your goals, and maybe you'd like to buy this business, some people would have thoughts, oh my gosh, this guy's selling the business, I'm not going to have a job.
Yeah.
So we just need to be upfront and talk about people's goals and see if they align. And that's how we start the conversation.
Again, Ron and Jessica, I don't want to go into too much depth and too personal depth, but I've got to throw what I think is a wild card out there as far as family. Do you have any other brothers and sisters, Jessica?
No, I'm the only.
Well, then that makes it easy.
It does.
That makes it easy. But I want to mention, and I don't know who can respond to this, when there's other family members, and even if they're not in the business, it's in mom and dad's estate, if you will. They own the business, and they want one of the siblings has shown interest, and they think it's the right thing to continue the business. But there's other, if you will, quote unquote, shares. Even though they don't have shares, they almost feel that they have a right to the business. And I guess, can any of you discuss that? Have you ever talked to people of the complications that happen with family businesses?
I can speak to it just for myself. Growing up, I had a brother, and he actually was working with my father as well. I went away to play ball, and then went to school, came back, and he decided that it wasn't for him. And I went to school to be a phys ed and health and minor in learning disabilities. So when I got out, it was not the income that I had hoped for. So my dad said, come on back and work for us. And that's how I got back into the automotive, and very thankful.
Ron, any comment on that you would want to share with a fellow that there's more family involved?
Well, the way that I acquired this business was pretty much that. The gentleman had a son and a daughter, both of which felt that they had the right to the business. And it became a family debacle to where the brother and sister weren't going to work together. And neither one of them could come up with an agreement on how the other would get it. So he finally said enough's enough. And he and I became agreed that I would purchase the business, so that he knew it would go on, but he wanted it to not be just sold outright to somebody he didn't think would keep it running. So I come straight from that.
That exact situation. Wow. And that's the part of the reason why businesses do not transit into the second or the third generation. They just can't figure it out.
And we're working on the fourth.
Yeah.
Her little one wants to take it over when she gets up here.
Yeah, you wrote to me, Jessica, a 7-year-old. She's 7 now, and she already says, "Hey, when can I be the boss?"
Yep, we had that discussion the other night, and I only have one, so I don't have to worry about siblings fighting either.
And if you met Lana May, she is the boss.
She is.
Wonderful. So David, we really need to start early in our business life cycle, if you will, to start thinking about it. Here I have, a 10-year-old son or a daughter, and maybe they show capabilities of, being, a kinesthetic learner. They get this stuff. I can see them, possibly being in the business. Who knows what their goals would be? Do I start figuring out how to put money away? You don't sit down with a 10-year-old and have that discussion. But again, if you're in your 40s and you say, hey, at 55, it's 15 years, is it too early to start even thinking about how to potentially put a transaction together or save money?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The earlier start, the better that it will be, and the more options that you'll have. We talk about, and I know Ron will probably talk about it, Profit First, the book. And I just think that that's fantastic, where you build silos. And, really what it does is allow you to control your spending, to understand what you're doing, and where it's going, so on and so forth. So for me, my father brought me in, and I had to learn the business side, meaning the book work and all of that, before he let me go have fun and go work on cars. So kind of was a little backwards, but it really worked out well, learning the business from that side. But with that said, when you use Profit First, or start having silos, or start early, whatever you may use, you give yourself a much greater opportunity for success, because then you have some of those dollars put away, so that when you do choose to make that transition, if you will, we've already gone through the heavy lifting. So it's very important. I always talk about being in front of it, not behind it.
Thank you for that. I want to come back and get into some pretty interesting and deep stuff. I appreciate you guys. It's been a great dialogue so far. When someone searches for a shop, who are they finding on the internet? Your competitor? Well, really, it should be you. Now, the good people over at Shop Marketing Pros know how to drive website traffic and make Google work for you. On the web at shopmarketingpros.com. And our great friends over at Shopware. Spending time chasing customers, you don't have time for that. Shopware's leading shop management system is helping shops like yours generate more profit per ticket with less time on the phone. Break away from your legacy system and implement a completely contactless workflow today. Get started at getshopware.com/carm. Hey, there's so many things. We cannot teach someone how to do succession planning in a 40 or 45 minute, which is so more the reason that on the team of this discussion, when you start wanting to have it, would be, in my opinion, as a business coach who really knows the industry, knows your business, an accountant, a good attorney, and a commitment amongst the family of open and honest dialogue. That it may hurt in some cases and it may not. We can always leave and come back and talk about it. Ron, share with us some of the ways that, the how, what kind of advisors did you pull together to pull this off?
Personally speaking, Dave and I have talked about it endlessly. I had reached out to the gentleman I bought the business from, got his insight. You're right. You have to get your attorneys involved. I had to wrap everything up into my trust. I had to make sure that that's covered in the event that my wife and I both cease at the same time.
Yeah.
So there are endless avenues you have to go down. Insurance agents.
Sure.
You want to make sure that you have proper insurance in place. You want to make sure you have life insurance policies that cover both of you, or however many of you are involved, so that in the event of an early demise, that there's always a backup plan that takes care of keeping everything in place. You're going to need a whole team of people to make this work. It's no different than deciding you're going to buy a business outright and go into a bank. You're not just going to walk in and get money and go over, and it's not like buying a car. There's a whole team of people that have to make this happen. The nice thing about planning ahead of time is you got plenty of time to make it happen.
Ron brings up such a great point. It's probably going to be one of the most difficult decisions, business decisions you're going to make, and some of the longest, hardest, toughest, I guess the word is decisions again, because you cannot be lackadaisical. You cannot be lazy about it, such an important the transaction that this is your baby. And, Jessica's the heir apparent, even though she's only one child in the family. The structure, you just can't say, hey, one day I'll be gone. Just give me a check for me and mom every week. And, so that we can eat, maybe go on one vacation and then fine. And then all of a sudden they find out years later that there's no real transference of equity or anything because they didn't pay attention to some of the details. Jessica, for you, was this kind of, wow, I can't believe it. We're talking to lawyers, we're signing documents. We've got a plan. I have insurance on my life that goes into the business if I'm not here. Was this all like strange to you?
It was a lot to take in at first. There's so much that goes into it that I never really thought of. And when we started going through it, it really became real. It was like, okay, this is happening and this is how life is.
Anything surprise you, shock you?
No.
Ron, anything surprise her from your perspective?
No, she's been raised to not let things surprise her. Just grasp them and run with them.
Pretty much.
She's done very well. She's ready to go. I'm not.
So, let's talk about that. So you became a part-time coach working for Dave in his great company. And that seems to be one of the plans that shop owners are doing. They're watching the transition happen, but they're deciding to, pay it forward inside the industry.
I was a technician for 35 years. My wife had come to grips with the fact that I was going to move on and teach. And once I became a client of Dave's and really started to understand business to a different level, I should say, once I got good at what I do, at working on it instead of in it, the thought of helping other guys that are going through the same thing I used to go through makes me happy. I can't even begin to tell you how fun it is to sit and coach. It's no different than teaching my crew how to do what they do. And sitting back and watching them succeed at it when you help another shop do the same thing is very fulfilling. So,
good. Jessica, I have a question about your business acumen. Now, you've been involved in the business about 10 years now?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. And you have, what's missing going forward that you need to learn?
All of the small things that don't happen very often. So, when we have to go to the accountant's office or go to the attorney, that happens so very few that I don't have enough practice in it yet. The day-to-day paperwork, the day-to-day running the shop, I've done that for the last 10 years. I'm good with that. It's the things that he does that I may not know about that I still need to learn.
What are you doing that Dad doesn't do well?
A lot.
Now, I didn't mean that to be a nasty question at all, Ron.
No, absolutely.
How long's the show?
The list is long.
I would say before I came on full time back in 2009, he had never done any marketing before. And that's something that is completely different in our business today. That is one of our main focuses that we do every day. And that's really not his forte. That is what I handle. And then I've taken on all of the bookkeeping as well. So there's times where he hasn't had enough practice in it in the last 10 years that I have to help him. So it kind of makes me feel good.
And if I could just mention one thing, maybe a little organizational skills. Jess is very, very organized. She knows her numbers inside out. She knows her software management system inside out. She's going to do fantastic.
Thank you, Dave.
That's great. Dave, let me stick with you here for a minute. I've spoken to some former owners who've done transactions with internal candidates but non-family. And part of the plan over a 5 or 6 year period is they earned equity into the business and put money away. And I want to go back to putting that money away here in a minute. But one of the things that was included in the deal, if you will, the contract, the agreement, was that they were going to have a business coach that person. They had a business coach there, and they just said, hey, now you've got a new client, and that's going to be my successor. How important is that?
Well, I mean, for my opinion, in my career, I had mentors help me, and moving forward, Big Box bought my stores, but with so many of our other clients that have internal candidates, first of all, we have to have a playbook. We have to have a playbook of our system, operation, procedure, exactly what we're doing. Hopefully, they're already championing your processes, but it never goes without having a mentor to be able to look at it and keep your business on the right path. So many times we're our own problem when we look in the mirror as business owners. So having a coach to help you again, stay on task, looking at your system operation procedures it's amazingly important. The next thing is if that business owner is holding any kind of paper, his success is to help that internal candidate be successful. So it makes sense. And for owners that really care about that candidate, I think that really shows exactly how they feel to have that candidate get some coaching. There's many different great coaching companies out there. I would suggest for sure, if you have a candidate that's coming in, that type of a plan is the only way to go.
So you're suggesting get some help. And Ron, you have to believe in this because I believe, is Dave coaching Jessica? Or are you?
Dave is coaching me. He's been my coach for 3 to 4 years now. I hope to pass on that legacy to Jessica. She and Dave have a great relationship. I don't want to be her coach. That's not fair to her. I will hold her accountable to some things and not to others, and she needs a coach that will hold her accountable to everything. So
it almost sounds logical, guys, even if as you are a coach now, Dave, in your other life, whatever that means.
Right.
Whatever that means. That Jessica would say, all right, Dad, what would Dave say? You don't want that, right? You
Right.
don't want that. That's smart.
But at the same point in time, I know whether you're coaching your son or whatever in baseball, we can equate it to. So many times I'll mention something and it kind of is in one ear and out the other, but then the other coach will come in and say something to him and he would adhere to it immediately. So I just think that being a step away is the right way to go. For me personally, I've seen it with my own children. So I believe that that's the right thing to do.
Dave, let me ask you a question about equity. Yes, Jessica is a family member, and we don't want to know the structure of the deal. It doesn't matter to us because it's private and it's family. But in so many deals, you've got to transfer equity sooner or later over time. And do you see deals being formulated and shaped over a 5 or 6 year period? Do you see a non-voting shares moving? Give me an idea.
So really it depends on how big the business is, quite frankly, because it comes down to the down. Is the owner carrying the money or is the person that's purchasing going to the bank? So there's many different levels of putting this deal together. Who's paying for whose insurances, so on and so forth, whether it be life insurance, so on. And, as I say, what I see is early on, Ron and I had the pleasure to be on the Napa National Board. Gary Klimmer was there. We've talked about him. And he had a 7-year, I believe it was, plan put in place with multiple guys that work for them.
Yeah.
They had everything written out. So when you talk about equity, they purchased a portion basically of equity each year down the road.
Right.
And the benefit for Gary or any business owner at that point in time is, yes, he's still getting paid to be there. Hopefully he's not working the kind of hours that he used to, because he's getting these folks to champion his processes, and he's being able to step back, as well as they're learning how to run the operation. So I think as a general rule, I would say 5 to 7 is a great place to go. But if you're buying somebody out that has 3 or 4 stores, there may be a longer period of time that you really need to be looking again in front of it, not behind it, because there's nothing worse than to come up and say, I want to buy your business. Okay, here's what we want. I don't have any money.
Yeah, which is so smart, gang. I've heard this story over and over again, that when you're hiring a key player in your business, and I guess it really doesn't, I'm sorry, let me take the word key player away. When you're hiring anybody for your business, one of the questions to ask during the interview is, what are your plans for the future? And if someone says, I'd love to own my own shop one day, maybe you can own mine. And if that discussion continues each and every half year, when you're sitting down and doing a personal review, a 360 review, you could almost help shape the individual's budgetary crisis. I mean, if you really want to own your own shop one day, you just can't leave whatever you're doing today without any money in the bank. So if you're saving for your own future someday, well, then start saving, because you never know. I would love to retire someday, and I'm looking for a candidate. Now, I've known some shop owners, like you say, David, that took 2 fabulous internal candidates and worked with them over time to sell a minority share of the business, and they had plenty of time ahead of them, like 15 years before the owner was really wanting to get out. And you talk about a smart long-term move. And Ron, I don't know how your original transaction went. Was it a quickie? Was it like 5 years, or did you just have to come up with the money when you bought yours?
5 years.
It was 5 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, great. And was there any repercussions on the backside from the former family at all?
No, actually, we're still very close to this day. So
okay, good.
It all worked out very well. The length of time you put in up front greatly, I think, minimizes that in the future.
Good. Jessica, let me put you on the spotlight here for the finance, the accounting side of the business, and your learning curve on, for example, key performance indicators.
Absolutely. When I came on, I knew nothing about KPIs or what KPI even stood for. So being able to have 2 great mentors in Dave and Dad, I've learned what those are and the key importance of how, if you don't know them, your business will not be successful. You have to know why it's important to be efficient and be productive and track those numbers so that you can have the highest performing shop to your possibilities.
Right. Was your dad a shop owner and then realized one day he needed to be a business owner?
I would say yes. He worked in the business a lot longer than he should have, and now he works on the business where he should be.
What a great thing to teach her on.
Mm-hmm.
She saw the hardships for a lot of years before somebody finally prodded me enough to get me out of the back shop. So,
and who was that?
The guy that's sitting right on the screen next to me. He did a good job of finally convincing me to step back. So you'll hear it from your peers endlessly, but man, you got to get a coach in your life to teach you that you got to get away.
So, Dave, is that a recurring theme with your clients to get them, up and off the counter, out of the bays, and in the back office, or at least in the leadership CEO role?
Without a doubt, and I think any coach will tell you that's one of the biggest challenges. We have 95% of us are technicians, and we haven't really gone through the education and learning the business side. So once the owners really step out of working in the business and start to work on the business, what's amazing is how quickly they can find out, I can make way more money managing my business than working in it. And then once they start to have some of those wins, it becomes more and more apparent to them that, yes, I'm doing the right thing. I need to find the right talent. I need to put system operation and procedure in place and get people to champion our processes. And now I'm a business owner, not someone that owns a job.
There you go.
Yes.
Hey, got it. Hey, guys, let's take one more break and give a shout out to my sponsors, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about money. You know, Shopware wants you to wow your customers while keeping your distance. We're still worrying about social distancing, staying 6 feet apart, and our Shopware's innovative technology will help you move cars through safely and efficiently. Completely digital workflow allows your customers to review, approve, and even pay for the repairs all in one place. Request a demo at getshopware.com/carm. And your customers want you to do what you say you're going to do. It should be the same with your marketing company. Shop Marketing Pros listens, cares, responds quickly, and does what they say they'll do. Contact Kim Walker on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Tell her Carm sent you. Tell her, Carm sent you. That's right. Carm sent you. Hey, let's jump into some money issues here, okay? You were talking about, the Profit First book and, putting money away in specific accounts. Ron, again, without, telling us too much and keeping it as confidential is did one day you say, hey, let's put some money away so that we can do this? Was it you telling Jessica to put money away, or were you just letting the business figure out how to fund this?
Ideally, I don't know if every situation will be the same, but for us, it's a matter of she puts money in and we match a portion of that as the business to give her ample time to, when the day comes that I've agreed to leave, she can give me a percentage of the money up front and then pay me over time.
You
I would
said
hope most
something
of
so
us ago. Go ahead.
My God Almighty, you just said when the day comes. So don't tell me. But is there a date on the calendar?
There's a date in my life when I turn 60. I don't plan to be here anymore.
And are you going to just say, Dad, it's time?
I can say that, but he probably won't listen.
She thinks it's time already.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell him he can work from home. It's okay.
I love what's going on here. I don't mean to be a referee, and I'm not. But what I heard is, "Hey, Dad, I'm ready." And Dad says, "Really, but I'm not ready to slow down yet. I mean, it's my baby, and it's almost like the baby's still a teenager, and yet there's an adult ready to take over the business." Have you had that discussion amongst both of you?
As to when I leave?
No, about she's saying, "Hey, slow down some more. I want to take a stronger reign."
Oh yeah, she's very good at supporting Dave and pushing me out a little more every week. She rides me to work more from home, spend more time. I'm still the 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. kind of guy.
Yeah.
She would prefer to see me. Go ahead.
I just want to say, and how many hours do you need to be there?
Maybe 2 or 3, if that.
If that.
It's just a matter of, when you've done this for almost 40 years, it's hard not to. It's hard not to just come in and do the thing. I mean, my wife gives me crap every day. She says, "Hey, you built an office here. Why don't you use it?" Because I drive into work every day. That's what I do.
I was talking to Mike Tadich the other day, and he was telling me that he's an FT kind of guy, a full throttle, and so am I. And Ron, it sounds like you are too.
Absolutely.
And when you're a full throttle guy, what do you replace it with? And you almost have to create, like your wife says, you've got an office here. Maybe you can learn to play store from home.
We're quickly trying to build that other side of my what I'm doing with my future. So once we get that ramped up, I won't have as much time for here. So I'll have to use that office at home.
And Jessica, would it? Are you warm to the fact that you want this transition to happen?
Oh, absolutely. I felt like that for a while. This is still his baby. It has been for many years, and I know he's not mentally ready to just step back 100%. So a little bit at a time, and that's fine.
Got it.
Whatever we need to do.
How often are you two discussing the succession plan and or your grooming process in the business?
I think, in everyday conversation, there's something that we discuss that you don't even realize. It's not like we plan to sit down and discuss it, but just in general conversation. We're together 10 hours a day. I spend more time with my dad than I do my husband. So
nothing off the table then in your discussions.
Right.
Got it. Let's talk about money. We started to talk about money, but let's dive a little more headstrong, David, into the silos and putting money away, earmarking, like we discussed in the book Profit First.
Sure. Well, as Ron said, some of the things that they've put forth is that he's putting money into a silo, as well as Jessica's putting money into a silo.
By the way, that's really smart. By the way, really, really smart that you're matching what company funds to Jessica's personal funds. Is that what you're doing?
Correct.
Good.
So you can almost lay that out as part of someone's compensation package as well. But when we're in front of it, not behind it, and we're doing this, there's just so many opportunities that are made by those dollars being in those silos. Whether you want to move the sale up sooner, or it needs to take a longer period of time. But at the same point in time, you have to come down and have that plan in place of exactly what that business is going to be worth. Have you gotten the business evaluated, so on and so forth? There's a million different prices that people talk about what you get on EBITDA and 3 times, 5 times, 7 times. All of that has to be discussed. The plan has to be put in place. And then I always move it backwards and figure it out. We need X amount of years. We have to put this amount of money put away, so on and so forth. And we build a plan. Just like you're going to build a plan when you go in, a business plan when you go to buy a business.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote something down that I have to ask you all here in a moment, but I want to come back. I want to kind of put a bow on this, and I have a really important, I think for myself, an important question to ask. I want to go and give one more final shout out to Shopware's management or Shop Marketing Pros. So sorry about this. Your customers want you to do what you say you're going to do, and it should be the same with your marketing company. Remember, Shop Marketing Pros listens, cares, and responds quickly and does what they say they'll do. Shop Marketing Pros on the web.com. And of course, Shopware is as easy as 1, 2, 3. The Shopware shop management system allows customers to review, approve, and pay for repairs all in one place. Keep your staff and your customers safe while maintaining profits and keeping your customers happy. Learn more at getshopware.com/Carm. Okay, look at you said something about EBITDA. We've done shows, David, on selling your business and outright, never internal. And the funny thing about it, David, you may have been on one of the shows that we did when the owner says, "Yeah, I'm going to retire and I'm going to sell my business." Well, great, that's wonderful. Well, what do you want for your business? I want $1 million.
Absolutely.
And anybody who knows or is smart, or they start rolling on the floor laughing and saying, "Wow, they're clueless," because you just mentioned EBITDA. And what I want to know about an internal family candidate, do those numbers still play in that kind of transaction of a family member?
Well, for me, I'm a business coach, so I work for Jessica and Ron, right? So, if you will, there has to be a rhyme and reason. So, for me, the first thing is go out and get a professional evaluation, and that's where everything starts, and then go from there. I know in the sale of my businesses, I had a professional evaluation before I even was approached by somewhere or whatever. So I had a good idea of exactly what it was truly worth. Unfortunately, not what my heart told me it was worth, but what it was really worth. And then again, once you have that, I work backwards. If it's a family member and it's something that you feel they should have for less, God bless you. But when people work their whole lives for that, I think that there's a sense that you have to get what it's worth for your other family members. And I know that my father did when I purchased his business. So it was business. That's where the line was drawn for us. I'm sure in other families it may not be that way, but I respected the heck out of him for him doing that.
Yeah.
Because he and my mother had a great retirement, and God bless them.
Yeah. Ron, was that one of the toughest things for you and Jessica to deal with, was to come up and evaluate the business?
No, it was actually pretty simple. You know, you got to get professional evaluation, of course, but then you got to decide in your heart of hearts, is that truly what you think it's worth, or is it over time, is it going to be easier to make the load lighter for her? Or on the other side of it, if we're successful and grow this business, it should be worth more money. The ultimate decision has to be, if you're going to carry the note, how long you're going to carry that note. The other thing, that selling to a family member, and Dave will get not happy with me for saying this, but when you sell a business, you're basically selling a cash flow. That guy's buying cash flow. When I'm selling to my daughter and I have a pre-decided plan and I know this business is successful, the extent of that cash flow is not as important to me. So I reinvest a lot of money into my business. I buy a lot of equipment. We're very technically driven. I don't have to worry about having to explain to somebody where all that money went every day, because she's part of it. She knows what's going on. She's not an outsider coming in. The candidate that's going to teach your business needs to be involved in those purchases if they're going to be an internal candidate, so they realize what they're getting. For me, determining the number was easy. She knows I won't let up on what I do, so I'm going to continue to make this place as big as I can make it. The number we agreed upon 10 years ago will be a very small number when the day finally comes, in comparison to where the business is at.
Well, you got a rocket ship of a dad there, Jessica.
Very true.
And you said that Dave would take exception with your opinion that your that cash flow wasn't it. But Dave, let me ask you this question: shouldn't it be different for family?
Again, I just have to go back to my experience. You know, for me, buying out my father, you know, he came to me and he said, "Hey, this is Mom and I's retirement." So it wasn't about that I paid him way too much, but we got it evaluated, and it was a business move. And I respected him for it. He was there every minute to help me on anything that I ever needed. So it wasn't, you know, hey, I got my money, we'll see ya. I love my father dearly. Each situation when you're dealing with family is different. Yep. You talk about a non-family member, though, and you go all the way to the hill and you're in that 7th year, and then unfortunately life gets in the way. Tragedy happens in their life, or life changes, and then all of a sudden they choose to go a different direction. So even when you're building those silos, and I don't want to get off topic, you're building those silos and putting that money away, but that's still in your account. And then when the transaction goes, it goes towards that other person. When it's family, it's a little bit different. But with that said, you know, I think a family decision is just that. It's a family decision.
Wow. I have so loved this. And I want to say to you all, this was a very good, eye-opening episode for the industry to hear. No matter if they have the same circumstance as Ron and Jessica, but there's still so much enlightenment, I would say, that the industry can. Ron, David, you know the number of people that want to transition their business, that want to sell their business.
Enormous.
And they're late. They're late to the table. They missed the wedding. And
you know, it's funny, but that's not funny. It's unfortunate. And that's why people need to implement today. Start from today. Yeah. If that's a plan you're going to put in place, work the plan.
And so remember, everyone who's listening and or watching, excuse me, we key these talking points into the show notes page on my website. So you could listen through mobile and through a podcast listening app. But and I always tell everyone in every episode, go to this URL, go to the show, go to my website, and these key talking points that came from Ron and David and Jessica are going to be there. And you could, in any episode I've ever done, and you could literally take that clip, copy, cut, paste, and then build a meeting agenda around it. And if it's not a meeting agenda for you, it's a maybe step-by-step thing that you can do to start doing a internal transaction in your business to a candidate. Well, let's go around the room. Let's do a final give up to the industry for, whatever you'd love to say. And Jessica, thanks so much for being here. Congratulations on doing a transaction with your dad, and hopefully one day you'll be back on and you'll tell us the story of how the day that Dad walked out and he gave you a big hug and says, "Can I still come by for coffee?"
Let's see if that day ever comes.
Hey, now.
Any final words?
I just want to thank you very much for having me on today. This has been very enlightening and very honored to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck to you, Ron. How about you? Any words to the industry about this?
I will back up, Dave. If you have any thoughts or any candidates in your mind, you got to get that out in the open. Like I had said in my points, you can't assume that person wants to be that person or you're selecting them. You got to let them know that. You got to get that dialogue opened up ASAP.
Boy, that's the key. I think we almost started out with that, and that's what I continue to hear over and over again. The lines of communication are not strong when it comes to no matter if it's family or whatever. And God bless families with multiple family members. Those are really tough transactions. They really are. David, you have the final word, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, Carm, for all you do first and in the industry and everything. But one of the things that I would just say to all the folks out there is we got to start early. You got to build a plan, and you need to implement one bite out of the elephant at a time. If you don't ask those questions to whether it's family members or people that are working with you, for you, you're getting behind it. And whenever we see so many people that walk away from their businesses, it's just heartbreaking. And don't be one of those folks. Implement now and get in front of it. Don't be behind it. Thanks again, Carm.
Hey, thank you. Hey, a couple of comments coming from Facebook. You guys rock. Yeah, I think you guys all did a great job. And when I bought out my father, I felt it was something out of the Godfather movies. He made a deal I couldn't refuse. That's an option. It's an option for sure. And thank you, Jerry. Compliment about a great show. Listen, everyone, have a great long Memorial Day weekend. And thanks for being here.
Labor Day.
Oh, that's right. Labor Day. Wow. I guess I wish summer was coming back.
Oh, yeah.
See you all. Bye.
Thank you.